creatures are about 4 feet tall. They have black eyes that seem to pierce your very soul. They come in the night, they take you from your bed, and they float you through the wall of your bedroom into the heart of a waiting spaceship. It's the stuff of science fiction, but for people around the world, incidents like these have become the most terrifying and important event of their lives. Are all these people the victims of similar hallucinations? Or were they really abducted by aliens?
When we went into space 20 years ago, the conventional wisdom was that this is the single place in the universe that there is life. Today, no one believes that anymore. Everyone is very convinced that life is ubiquitous in the universe, that there are thousands, perhaps billions of planets in some of the galaxies, or in the billions of galaxies, that have life on them. The question of us connecting with each other is quite a different matter.
Forces Beyond traveled to Florida to meet a man who claims that a connection with aliens has changed his life.
I led a very simple life. I always had a fascination to think that there were so many stars out there, that there had to be some kind of life or existence beyond us, that I just didn't know how or when this would occur, that I may find this out someday. My first experience when I had it, I was 31 years old, and it occurred in 1983 in Michigan. When I went to sleep, I actually wasn't asleep. I didn't realize it until I was being carried out of my bedroom. And I saw lights and realized that I was moving without actually physically moving. And then the next thing I consciously remember is being transported through this hallway. The smell was very, very strange smell, and the walls looked not like you would see a normal wall. They were so almost rounded.
Lee has shared his experience with his family.
So what are you up to today?
He was a wonderful child in the sense he was loving, sweet, very sensitive, inquisitive, just an all-around great kid. I wasn't sure, and I'm still not sure, whether he was dreaming or whether this is an actual experience. I believe in Lee, but I'm not sure myself. If I found out this really had happened, I would be afraid. I'd be afraid for him. I think I'd be afraid for all of us.
I felt like I was totally violated and lost every possible, conceivable way of being in control. And to have this happen to me was like it was like a rape. It was like a violation of the highest order.
I think his sense of helplessness and loss of control would ring a bell in anyone that saw the honesty from which it came. I'm also a paramedic, and the same fear that I see in people who think they're going to die is the same fear and anguish that I see in the eyes of those who have had alien abductions.
I was moving fast, but I felt this total sensation of floating, constantly floating, until they took me to this table. And I looked over and I saw my dog for the first time. And I realized that this wasn't a dream because I actually saw her physically next to me. After I really didn't ever come out and tell anybody that I had the experience until recently. But I would always get in discussions and try to lead people around to the belief that do you believe in aliens or extraterrestrials, or do you believe there are beings that can come in here in this planet with spaceships? And interestingly enough, it would be around a dinner table or discussions within the family, and I'd get responses from, oh yeah, absolutely, to I got to see it to believe it, you know. So it was, I learned to protect myself at that point.
So many Americans believe that we have alien visitors because they have been brainwashed by our news media, primarily by television. I would like to believe that we have alien visitors. It would be one of the most exciting, probably the most exciting story of my lifetime. Regrettably, there is no credible scientific evidence to show that we've even had one extraterrestrial visitor, let alone hundreds or thousands.
I
tell everybody that you've lifted off this planet.
Lyman Hanks is concerned about his brother's story of unexplained abduction.
When you got into your teen years, yeah.
To elaborate a little on Lee, he's the kind of person who he has to do things. If there's a bridge and it's 100 feet down, I was the kind of person that I didn't have to jump off the bridge to realize that I could get hurt. Lee is the kind of person who would have to jump off the bridge. I don't know about you, but the word abduction, anybody, a woman's abducted by a man, an alien abducts a human being, taken against you. The word is a negative word. It means to take you against your free will, and to have a being from the planet come and take you out of your bed at night and do things to you. No, I'd be very angry if it happened to me. I would personally like to see these people, including my brother, take a polygraph test just to see if they think they're telling the truth. It wouldn't prove that it really happened, but it would definitely prove that they're convinced they're telling the truth.
There is, in my opinion, no evidence whatsoever to support the claims of alien abduction. Interestingly enough, people have been abducted since the beginning of time by one thing or another. During the Middle Ages, of course, maidens were abducted by dragons, and knights had to go out and rescue them. And then around the turn of the century, people were abducted by little folks, fairies, elves, leprechauns, and so on. Now the theme, of course, is extraterrestrials coming from the distant stars and so on to take care of the sleeping person.
It was nothing like anything I knew. And I knew something was wrong at that point. And I knew I was out of control. I couldn't move. I literally could not move. And that's when I started to try to fight. And she was squirming. And I got so angry and so upset that they were hurting her. I started screaming. The next thing that happened to me that I can actually consciously remember was that somehow or another they were talking through my dog over to me, telling me that things were going to be okay, that they weren't hurting her, or that she was saying, I'm okay, and you're going to be okay. 6 or 8 months after that, I really felt a couple times that I probably wanted to die. I really did. And that didn't satisfy me either. Because I was almost concerned that I'm not so sure they wouldn't come after me even if I died. It's like they were going to find me wherever I went.
In Lee Hanks' view of the universe, there's only one explanation of the event that changed his life. He was abducted by aliens. For thousands of years, man has looked at the night sky and seen not only the moon and the stars, but strange and unusual creatures. In 1938, when Orson Welles broadcast his sensational radio program, War of the Worlds, the thought of an alien invasion panicked a nation. It was a big lie, but America bought it. Aliens were fiction then, but have they become real now?
New York artist and leading UFO researcher Bud Hopkins searches for answers in photographs and drawings by people who claim to have been abducted by aliens. How many people? A 1991 Roper poll estimated that 1 in every 50 American adults may have had an abduction experience.
When I began this research back in the 70s, my basic goal, which had a kind of scientific objectivity about it, was to try to see if there were viable patterns here. What I discovered were certain things. For instance, a person could have had an abduction experience with very little conscious recollection. It didn't necessarily happen once. People abducted in childhood and then again and again and again. And now we know it's a kind of a lifetime situation, as if the person is a sort of subject, involuntary subject in an ongoing longitudinal study.
I have yet to find a single claim of UFO abduction that I find credible. And if these stories are true, then I think that the people claiming they're true should come to Washington, for example, report them to the FBI, and let's muster the defenses of the nation. Let's muster the defenses of the world to protect our planet.
Healthcare executive David Jones of Fort Wayne, Indiana, is part of a Harvard University-based effort to substantiate claims of alien abduction.
My first experience was at the age of 6 What happened was I was playing with my older sister on the back porch, and I turned to my right, and off of the back of the wall of the house, I saw this horrifying face. And these large, dark eyes just penetrated me to the point that it paralyzed me. Going back and looking into it, I found out that what happened at that time, I had an abduction with 3 different aliens, because when I was paralyzed, 3 aliens came out of the wall, the small gray aliens, and communicated things to me.
In the past, and still in Europe today, the aliens are not at all like the little grays. The aliens in Italy, for example, are reptilian in form and shape and so on. In Norway, Denmark, Sweden, northern Germany, the aliens are Nordic-type human beings, normal size. Some are even larger than normal size. But the little grays are reported in our society only.
Dr. John Mack is a Pulitzer Prize-winning Harvard psychiatrist and author of the book Abduction, in which he reports on his use of hypnotic regression to help patients retrieve hidden memories of alien abduction.
Each of us has a role, and each of us has our function, and mine apparently is to be this voice from the center of the establishment, a psychiatrist at a well-known university that says, hey, things are not the way we thought. Dave has a great deal of conscious recollection. He's a very courageous man who has felt that he could withstand the heat, and has come forward to share the experiences he's had throughout his life.
When the UFO abduction cult was born or invented, primarily by Bud Hopkins, he and his disciples held that to be abducted by aliens, that this was a very traumatic experience, almost like rape. But in the last several years, a schism, a split has occurred in the UFO abduction cult, and some of the new leaders, like Dr. John Mack of Harvard University, are saying, well, initially, it may be a traumatic experience, but in the long run, it opens your consciousness. It makes you aware of the need to worry about the ozone layer and about the Earth's ecology.
One of the reasons I'm speaking out, since I've gone through this, I've met other people, even in the town that I live, that's had the same experiences, but they're afraid to step forward and have somebody to work with to deal with it.
Psychologist Robert Baker has authored 3 books on memory and hypnosis. Dr. Baker disputes Dr. Mack's views on alien abduction and the findings of the Roper poll.
The most interesting aspect of the Roper report was Dr. Mack's introduction, which he claimed that approximately 3.5 to 4 million Americans have been abducted by aliens. The concept is ridiculous. No one has seen these bodies floating back and forth through the air.
There just isn't anything I know in the world where people all over the country, say, and now we're hearing increasingly from other countries, have very intense, detailed experiences that they report with appropriate feeling. There just isn't anything we know in human life that operates like that other than real experience.
Dr. Baker believes the real explanation for alien abduction is a condition known as sleep paralysis, which occurs in the moments between waking and dreaming.
Let me demonstrate what the sleep paralysis phenomenon is like. A person comes in and lies down, takes slow, deep breaths, and starts to fall asleep. People will see lights coming at them from outside the room, moving towards them, and they're completely paralyzed, and so, of course, they're very distressed. But then as you get deeper into sleep, you begin to really start dreaming, and the dream seems like it's very, very real. The interesting thing is medical reports of sleep, descriptions of sleep paralysis, mirror almost exactly the reports coming from people who claim that they were abducted by aliens.
But it's so silly. I mean, the people aren't asleep. Not only that, but even if sleep paralysis were at work, it says nothing about 99% of the phenomena, which is this highly complex series of experiences which are so detailed that it doesn't go with sleep paralysis.
We have heard for the last 25 or 30 years about all of the implants that the aliens supposedly put inside human beings. To this day, we have absolutely no implant in the hands of a qualified scientist who can look at this implant and determine the fact that it is something not of this world.
Well, I want to make a distinction between real and proof, okay? We've constricted our ways of knowing, what I guess the philosophers call epistemology, to only that which can be proven. And this can't be proved, yet we have great amount of evidence that we can't account for at all. So it is in some way real, but it doesn't satisfy the Western linear way of thinking's requirement for proof.
There are many, many unusual, mysterious things in our universe. Any night you go out and look up and see something strange, it doesn't mean that it's an extraterrestrial spacecraft. But number one, most likely it's either something perfectly natural but unusual. Number two, it is something that the Air Force has created, or one of the other air forces of other countries has created, and is in the air. And the most improbable and most unlikely of all of these possibilities is that it's something from outer space or another parallel universe.
Lee Hanks is one of many people seeking validation for the experience of alien abduction. For him, finding Dr. Michael Marshall was a turning point.
Breathe in and out.
Therapist Michael Marshall's study of Eastern healing techniques gave him a unique outlook on the case of Lee Hanks.
From my perspective, treating alien abduction is no different than treating a gallstone. The body distorts in a certain pattern from any type of stress. If there's any weakness in the body, it'll fall into a certain pattern, and that's the pattern that you treat.
Shoulders up high, relax, relax. Oh.
As a therapist, it does not matter to me at all whether the alien experience really happened or did not happen. The patient experiences the same misery whether it really happened or whether they think it happened. I think something did happen to Lee.
Oh.
And I don't think he would have gone to such lengths to concoct a story and have so much misery associated with it.
The most difficult thing to deal with has been the fear. The fear of the experience, the fear of having to surrender to something that is so much grander and bigger than us. And I'm dealing and talking specifically about the aliens and the alien consciousness, whatever that is. I feel like I've been healed from the experience that I had back in 1983 as much as one can. And I think I can say that because I'm really actually looking forward to the day and the time when I will actually be able to physically meet with these aliens and hopefully have an interchange.
I don't think that therapeutically you're doing your clients very much good when you keep them believing that they can be abducted any night that they fall asleep. If you thought that any night that you went to sleep that you're going to be abducted and having your body invaded and being raped by monsters from outer space, I don't think that that is going to decrease your anxiety.
If these stories are true, then it is the gravest threat that the people of this country, of your country, of this planet have ever faced.
The UFO sightings and alien abductions issue, we still don't have a smoking gun on that. What are we seeing? Are we seeing things that are created by the minds of the individuals involved? A part of it probably is. Is there a real physical phenomenon behind it? There is pretty good evidence that that's true too. So we're not dealing with a simple phenomenon here. It's not so simple as have aliens landed. Well, maybe they have, maybe they haven't. There's some evidence that would suggest that they have. But we're still dealing with a field phenomenon. We're not dealing with a laboratory phenomenon that we can scrutinize under the microscope well.
The debate about alien abduction continues. These extraordinary personal accounts still strike skeptics as pure fantasy. But this much is certain. Untold numbers of people have experienced something truly terrifying and truly alienating that has left them searching to return to what was their normal life.